everyone, and welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be reviewing a new cutting mat for the ScanNCut that I got from Temu. You can also get cutting mats for other machines as well. As you can see, there isn't much to tell between this one and an original Brother mat. It would be interesting to see if you notice any differences that I haven't. First of all, let's take it out of the plastic wrap that it comes in. At first glance, the mat looks almost identical to the Brother's mat for the ScanNCut. There are minimal differences between the two mats. When I bought the mat, the price from Temu was £9.54, whereas the Brother mats in the UK cost around £20. It's definitely a way of saving money. They come with the same protective cover as the Brother mats. So they're really familiar in terms of setup. They are pretty much identical in terms of the graphics on the actual mats themselves, as well as the diamond shaped hole at the top, which you can use for hanging your mats. The mat is a standard tack mat. However, after taking off the protective cover, the mat isn't super sticky. For this mat, I plan on keeping the protective film, which I typically don't do with my Brother mats. It will take time to know the real integrity of the mat as to how long it will last, how long the cuts will actually take to make the surface not stick anymore, and also in terms of cleaning as well, how like the Brother mats they are, or if they're more like the artist sticks that just prefer you to use the bare minimum of cleaning products. You have all the measurements across the top and down the sides that you would expect to see on your cutting mat, as well as the grid across the mat itself. The material of the mat is pretty similar to the Brother mat, so it's not got the super thickness that you associate with the artist sticks mats, for instance. So the one thing that I did notice on the actual material itself is that it has a matte finish rather than the shiny finish that you do find with the Brother mats. So I think, if anything, it's actually going to be able to feed through the rollers better. Now, what I would say is, with any brand new mat, is just be very aware of how tacky the mat is itself. Particularly with standard tack mats, you can always tap off some of that initial stick with an old t-shirt. What I'm going to do is just not press down. So yeah, definitely don't press down on this card. You want to try and get it as straight as possible first time, so that you're not having to peel, and then you can carry on as normal. So what I'm going to do is set up a design in the ScanNCut using the full quill USB from Amy Tangerine, and have a backing paper that we can actually draw onto our 12 by 12. So the card that I'm using is by Astrodesigns, and if you're familiar with Nina cardstock, it's by the same people. And I'm going to be using an Arteza Inconic fine liner for doing the drawing. So this has a triangular barrel, so it is going to fit better in the 3D Thumbprints pen holder rather than the Brother pen holder. So that's just something to bear in mind. And it's all down to how it actually holds the pen. So we're going to be working in yellow so that we can colour over the top of our design without having like the harsh black outlines bleed or anything like that. And I'm going to be testing the material out with a few different colouring materials so I can prepare for that ahead. So you want to start by unscrewing the top of your pen holder so that it is just at the very edge of the screw thread. We have a guide, and inside that guide you'll find there's a little circle, and that's where your pen nib is going to sit. Now if you're using a yellow pen like what I'm doing here, you're going to want to give it a little clean with a baby wipe, so I just do that very quickly off camera. And you want it so that no ink is transferring to that baby wipe when you're cleaning. Going to pop the guide back onto our pen holder, take the cap off the pen, slot it in through the top, and then we want to push it right through so that it goes through that centre whole section. So it's very easy with a pen like a fine liner for it to go off slightly. So you want to make sure that it's going straight through the centre, and then our drawing will be nice and accurate. And then that pen nib goes through to actually touch the guide. And once it's in, then you can tighten up that top screw thread. And I'm just putting a little pressure onto the back of the pen so it doesn't slip back out as I'm tightening. Waggle your guide and you should feel a little grating just as it's passing over that nib, and then we know it is in the right place. As we're working with a lighter colour, just scribble that pen onto some scrap paper just to clean off any ink residue that may have transferred. Even though we've cleaned it, it's not always perfect. And then you have 2 lines on the back of the pen holder, and those 2 lines go to the back of the carriage in your ScanNCut. And then we can draw. So load the pen holder into your machine, lower the latch as normal, and then we can go and actually draw our drawing. So we're going to load the mat, and on loading, it loads first time absolutely fine. The rollers pick it up really well, and there's no kind of sagging. So we're going to go OK. Please select and draw, and we're going to set our pressure. Now because I'm using a fibre tip fine liner, I wanted to use the minimum amount of pressure possible to get that consistent drawing line. It's also a water-based pen, so we want to put that speed up so that we're not having any bleeding issues. So we can put that right up to 5 and it will draw just fine. So I'm going to take that pressure down to -9, go OK. And then we can start the draw. Sometimes you'll find that some of the models come up with a little issue with the pen holder that say attach appropriate holder. Just go OK, back, start again, and it will go through the second time just fine. Now drawing does take a little bit of time, so I'm going to skip this little bit. But what you want to be doing as we're kind of processing this is just making sure that it's drawing. And if you're not happy that it's drawing, you're going to pause, quit drawing, and then you can go back into draw, set your pressure a little higher. So I think go to -6 in the end. And then try again. It's going to throw the same issue, but that's fine. Just deal with it the same way. And sometimes what you might find, if you haven't got your pressure quite high enough, you might find some spots draw and others don't. So what you want to do in that case is just pause, then go to your settings and just up that pressure a little bit, and then continue. What you don't want to do is draw back over something you've already drawn, just because you can find, particularly with fine liners, that sometimes they start to pill, which is where fibres of the paper start to lift, and that's the last thing that we want to happen in our cutter. Okay, so I've done my drawing, and now what I've done is I've applied one of the multi-frame designs from the machine itself, and I've resized that so that it's as big as it can go onto my 12 by 12 sheet. So it has a solid cut line around the outside and then little rectangles that are on the inside. We're going to go OK, please select and cut. And I pretty much left my cut settings as I would normally use for a brother mat. So go start. Now, if you're used to moving between an SDX and a brother mat, you'll know that the pressure does vary between them. If you feel more comfortable doing it auto, do it auto, but just be aware that you can sometimes find a little bit more marking on the mat. So now it's time for the true test of the mat, and we're going to remove our material. First of all, you want to check that everything is cut, and the outside line is actually quite fine in some places. So what you may find is that actually you're better off transferring over the back and peeling it away from the card rather than trying to pull the card away from the mat. But it really is up to you as an individual and down to the material itself as to what it will handle. So with this outside piece, I'm going to remove it this way first. So you can see that because it doesn't matter how this comes off, we can kind of be a bit rougher with it and just kind of pull it away from the mat. Then we can use a spatula, particularly a metal spatula if you want to actually lift the main areas of the design. Or again, as I said, you can flip it over. So, how did we do? Well, the mat is absolutely fine. There's a few little bits of the card itself that have stuck, but you can just take those away with a fingernail. The actual cut marks are non-existent, which is always a good thing. So what we should be able to find is that these mats are going to last longer. So the more that we can kind of limit that cut through the material and through the mat, the better for our longevity of the mat and also of the stick itself as well. One of the things I did notice that you just saw me kind of gesture there is the corners on these mats are actually cut to a sharp right angle. So in some ways it's better for the feed, but in other ways it's just to be aware of that when you are using the mats, just to not hurt yourself. Aside from that, it's a very good mat. It worked actually better than I expected. What I would say in terms of personal financial safety is just to use a method of payment that you can control and is safe. So for instance, when we ordered this mat, what we did was we actually had the card that I have has the ability to have like a sort of one-off card code, which is quite cool. So this helps you to keep your money safe and avoids it being used by scammers and things like that. So always be safe when you're online ordering. It doesn't matter where from. So, and just replace your protective sheet, and that's going to be my way of working with this mat for the time being, is making sure that it has that protective cover going back on it, that it's sealed around the edges and no air pockets. And then we've created these little panels of little lemony delights that you probably can't quite see at the moment, but in the next video you're going to see what I do with these. So thank you for watching, and come join me for a touch of scrapbooking with these panels. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.